wonder murmur where whispers weave the heart.
Hello, little hearts. A new whisper begins. That is a fantastic request. As a professional storyteller, I can certainly expand the core themes of self-worth and the profound impact of small acts into a richer narrative suitable for a family-focused YouTube channel. This revised story, Eliza and the Ember of Doubt, will feature more detailed sensory descriptions, build a clearer emotional climax, and enhance the dialogue to be more natural and engaging for an international audience interested in fairy tale, educational, and inspirational content. In the quiet emerald cradle of Meadowbrook Village, nestled between the whispering willows and fields that shimmered with sapphire blue flax, lived Mrs. Eliza Thorne. Her house was a low-slung cottage, but her garden was a legend. It was a riot of controlled chaos. Scarlet poppies leaned against cool mint, fragrant lavender guarded plump ruby-red tomatoes, and herbs like thyme and sage grew so thick their scent hung in the air like a benevolent mist. For 70 years, Eliza had been the silent, earthy engine of Meadowbrook. The villagers spoke of her garden with reverence. They said a pinch of Eliza's feverfew could soothe a migraine quicker than any chemist's draft, and a basket of her zucchini felt like a hug on a difficult day. Yet, as the sun dipped behind the western hills, painting the sky in glorious, adventurous streaks of orange and gold, a small, cold ember of doubt always smoldered in Eliza's heart. She would sit on her porch, her hands smelling of damp soil and life, and watch the distant road. She imagined the travelers, the explorers who braved stormy seas to chart new continents, the inventors who spun light from electricity, the artists who captured the fleeting soul of the world on canvas. Their lives were tapestries of grandeur and purpose. Her life? Just rows of beans and the endless cycle of bloom and decay. I am but a keeper of dirt, she'd murmur to her calico cat, Clementine. I feed bodies, but I do not feed the spirit of the world. One scorching summer afternoon, when the air was thick and golden, Eliza was meticulously weeding a patch of defiant chickweed. She looked up and saw a shadow clinging to the old split-rail fence. It was Samuel, a quiet boy of 9 whose parents had recently moved to Meadowbrook from the bustling city. His eyes, the color of moss after a rain, were wide, not with shyness, but with intense, unadulterated curiosity. "Hello there, Samuel," Eliza called out, her voice a little gravelly but warm. "Lost, are you?" "No, ma'am," he whispered, clutching the wooden fence post. I was just watching the way you speak to the plants. It's like you're listening to them." Eliza chuckled, a sound like dry leaves rustling. "Oh, they have plenty to say, dear. A quiet voice, perhaps, but listen long enough, and you'll hear their needs." She invited him over, and Samuel, with the eager grace of a young deer, vaulted the fence. For the next hour, they worked in comfortable silence. Eliza pointed out the tiny feathery hairs on a basil leaf that held its scent, and Samuel carefully picked Japanese beetles off a rosebush. As they rested under the shade of an ancient apple tree, Samuel sighed deeply. "Mrs. Eliza, your garden isn't just plants. It's a tiny, perfect world. It smells better than anything I've ever known. You must be the happiest person in the village." The ember of a doubt flickered. "Thank you, Samuel," she said, her voice thin. But you haven't seen the world. My life is small. I dream of being like the great pioneers, leaving a mark that the whole world sees. Samuel sat up straight, his young brow furrowed in concentration. He didn't argue. He simply said, with the certainty only a child possesses, "Mrs. Eliza, you've left a mark right here, and I think it's bigger than a continent. Show me." She challenged gently, half expecting him to point to a particularly magnificent sunflower. "Come on," he said, pulling her hand with surprising strength. "Let me show you the truth." Samuel led her away from the shelter of the familiar garden and into the heart of the village. This was the climax of Eliza's emotional journey, the forced confrontation with her own impact. They approached Mrs. Petrov, the village baker, who was struggling to lift a heavy sack of flour. "Mrs. Petrov," Samuel asked, "what does Eliza's garden mean to you?" Mrs. Petrov wiped her hands on her apron and smiled at Eliza with a look of profound warmth. "Last winter, my little Leo had a cough that wouldn't break. Dr. Finch said he could do no more, but Eliza gave me an old family recipe, a tea made of her marshmallow root and wild cherry bark. It soothed him through the night. She didn't invent a medicine, dear. She healed my son." Next, they visited Mr. Davies, the oldest man in the village, who sat alone by the stream, whittling. His wife had passed away the year before. "Mr. Davies, the garden," Samuel prompted. The old man paused his whittling and looked at Eliza, his eyes misty. "After Eleanor died, everything was grey. I couldn't see the point in colour. Then Eliza brought me a basket of her forget-me-nots and bleeding hearts, saying, 'They mourn and remember, but they keep blooming too.' She didn't paint a masterpiece, Eliza, but her flowers gave me permission to feel and to keep going." Finally, they stopped by the small cabin of a young couple, Lily and Tom, who had been struggling to start their farm. "We had nothing, truly nothing, when we started," Lily said, holding a newborn baby wrapped in a shawl. "We were ashamed. But every week, Eliza would quietly leave a box of her freshest spinach and new potatoes on our step. We felt seen. She didn't build a dynasty, but her vegetables nourished our hope and kept our family strong when we were weakest." By the time they reached the village square, Eliza was no longer the skeptical, self-pitying woman of the morning. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears, her cheeks flushed with a kind of beautiful shock. And then she saw it. The villagers had gathered. They hadn't built a monument or awarded her a medal. Instead, they had created a living tapestry in the center of the square, a breathtaking display using her own bounty, garlands of her bright calendula, pyramids of her glossy peppers, and baskets woven with her vibrant honeysuckle vines. Samuel stepped forward, his small voice ringing with the clarity of a bell. "This is our way of saying thank you, Mrs. Eliza. You envied the great inventors, but your herbs brought healing. You envied the great adventurers, but your food sustained those who had nowhere to turn. Your life is not small, because you live it with great love. You don't just grow plants, you grow us." Tears, warm and heavy, finally traced paths down Eliza's wrinkled cheeks. She looked at the faces around her, each one reflecting gratitude, connection, and deep affection. In that moment, the cold ember of doubt that had smoldered for 70 years was finally, truly extinguished, replaced by a deep, roaring flame of joy and purpose. Her garden was not a humble plot of dirt. It was the heart of Meadowbrook, beating rhythmically with life, healing and joy. From that day forward, Eliza Thorne never again looked to the distant horizon for greatness. She found it in the rich, dark soil under her fingernails and in the profound, beautiful impact of her small, loving actions. She realized her unique life was a living testament to the truth that the grandest purpose is often found in the simplest act of nurturing what is right in front of you.
Wonder murmur, the story departs, yet the whisper imparts.